What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the HKB podcast, your number one resource for all things kayak bass fishing here in the Hoosier State. Tonight, we got an awesome guest lined up for you. I'm excited to talk to Austin and talk about what has made him so consistent this year fishing the GRBY series. Got a lot of great series here in Indiana. GRBY has made it easy to fish a lot of tournaments here without having to travel too far. I know I've fished like 26 tournaments already this year. 16 of them have been GRBY events, so that's awesome. And Austin's another one of those guys that fishes a lot of GRBY events and has had a lot of success. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. He's fished some other events as well, so I'm excited to do that. We're going to start doing things a little bit different. We're going to start changing things up with the podcast here. Starting tonight, first thing we're going to do different, rather than doing a full recap of all the tournaments at the beginning of the show here, we're just going to quickly go over top performers and big bass of the week, and then we're going to move right into updates and things like that, and then get on with the show with our guest. Previously I'd gone over the top 10 in every tournament, kind of broke them down. GRBY does a great job of that. They have GRBY Talk hosted by Brian, and that's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. It kind of varies depending on availability, but he has the winner of each tournament on, and they go through the top 10 and everything. So when there's an IKA event or a SIAC event, we may do a little bit more of a recap. But going forward, we're just going to quickly talk about the top performers, which we post every week, and do a full recap of the tournaments there too, so you guys can get that information there, and then get on with our guest. Another thing, starting with our next episode, we're going to move to Wednesday nights at 8:30. Justin, thank you for the loud and clear, bud. I appreciate that. We're going to start moving to Wednesday nights at 8:30 rather than Thursday nights. Couple reasons for that. Now that it's summertime, believe it or not, it's finally here. Maybe unofficially, but it's here. It's sunlight is still shining out there. I can hear the kids running around the neighborhood. School's out. So with that, the KFL series is getting ready to start up, and the Indy nights, of course, I'm a part of that, as well as a bunch of other great anglers from the state, which you all know. And we're going to be traveling a lot on Thursdays and practicing, and I'm going to be away from the house. And then just generally tournament-wise, either it's GRBY or practicing for something, Wednesday night makes more sense. So we're going to move to Wednesday nights at 8:30. All right, guys? So be prepared for that. That way, if you're fishing GRBY Thursday, you don't have to worry about rushing back to see this. I don't have to worry about rushing back to record it. And that sort of thing. So excited about those changes. Hopefully you guys will like those as well, and it'll help with some viewer counts. Speaking of helping with some viewer counts, please give us a like, a share, make sure to comment on it, tag a buddy, all those kinds of good things. Help us get the word out about this. Good news is I think I finally have the issue with it not being broadcasted to your other podcast platforms, the audio portion of it. So I think I have that fixed, and I'm going to be able to get all that stuff pushed out over the next couple weeks. So those of you that would prefer to listen to it over the phone, and drive to work or at work or whatever, you'll be able to do that rather than just watching it on here or on YouTube. It's another great way you guys can share this is go to the YouTube channel. Of course, subscribe, but click the share button there and share it to your socials, share it with your friends and your family. We appreciate that very much. All right, guys. With that being said, let's quickly talk about what's going on right now, and let's talk about what happened last week. So I shared it at the beginning of the episode. HKB top performers for the week of May 27th through the 31st. We had the KBF month-long wrapping up at the end of the month there, and then 3 great events from GRBY. Tonight's guest won 2 of those events, so we're going to get to talk in detail with him about those. He was also on Grubby Talk yesterday and gave us some pretty good insight to those events. But we also had another winner. So let's get to that really quick. Wrapping up the KBF month long, man, was that a weird month of fishing. If you fished all the way through, fishing all types of different phases, traditional patterns did not play out like you thought they would, and it was a challenge. But none other than Matt Kiefer got another W in the month long with 102 inches, 0.50, 102.50. In the final days, kind of upping it there. There was a lot of jockeying for position towards the end. But Matt was able to pull out the victory. The bluegrass bandits, as I've heard some people call them recently, seems pretty fitting. 102.50 inches. Congratulations to Matt. I know he's on his way up to St. Clair right now, trying to get in on that KBF Trail Series event up there, like many other anglers. Moving on, Grubby at Brookville, 82 inches. Austin Killion with a 5-fish limit there, leading the way. Had a pretty decent limit or lead on the field. I think he fished day one Thursday, and then Friday fished the White River, where he also won with 85.75, just shy of the big bass or big bag of the week. Had a great tournament out there. It was really close. Coming in second was Nick Matthews, who won and is our last top performer of the week. Nick Matthews won Niona, so he almost doubled, but instead Austin did. Nick Matthews had 86.5 at Niona for a 5-fish limit. Blew it out of the water, guys. I mean, my best 5 went for 77 3/4 was my best 5. Almost 10 inches below Nick. Nick has got that lake dialed in. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I've been up there 2 or 3 times now this year. Hopefully I can get a little bit closer on him in the next one and maybe squeak out a victory over him. But congratulations to Matt, Austin, who we're going to talk to here in just a moment, and Nick Matthews on being our top performers for the week. Big bass of the week. We split those honors. Nick Matthews at Niona with a stud, 20.25 inch. Guys, the average bass out of Niona is like 13 inches. Giant fish out there. Great catch for him. And then Hunter Hoffman, a young angler fishing the White River, came up with a 20.25 as well. Smallie, so we had a big largemouth and a big smallie, and that was awesome to see. The White River is the place to be. It's the thing to see, as my buddy at the Bassmasters would say. 50 anglers signed up for that event. Definitely getting some great turnouts. It's by far the biggest turnout for Grubby. I think last year Monroe was most weeks, if not all. Great turnout. So if you want to get an event, have a decent chance at a check, and catch some big smallies, that's the one to go to. All right, guys. Coming up this week, already going on this week, we have Brush Creek. I don't know why anyone would want to fish there, but some people signed up for it, like 14 people. Blew my mind. I thought Adam would be the only person signed up for that event, but Austin is going back to, I don't understand. No, I'm joking. I get the appeal. But we had Brush Creek this week, and then Raccoon. I'll be heading there tomorrow to fish that one. Looking for some redemption. Send some good vibes my way, please. I'm going to need them. But that's what's going on this week. Saturday, if you're not fishing a tournament, you want to go check out some new kayaks. Moving Water Outfitters is having another demo day up there, and the details are all on their website and their Facebook page. Check that out. But Moving Water Outfitters, another demo day. I'm actually going to make this one. I've never been able to get to one. I've always had conflicts with my schedule and their demo day. So I'll be up there. I'll have the fully rigged out bona fide for you guys to try out, and they'll have a host of other great kayaks for you guys to get in and check out. I want to check out that New Canoe Unlimited. I've been seeing those things crewing around. Justin Staley, fishing buddy of mine and fellow Indy Knight, he's got one. It looks really great. I've not jumped in it yet. I'm going to do that. I'm going to check out some other new canoes as well. So get up there and do that if you're in the market for something new or looking to swap out some kayaks. All right, guys. Maybe get into your first kayak. Maybe you're watching this. You've been thinking about, hey, I want to get in a kayak. Great opportunity to go try them out before you buy. So please do that if you can. All right. What do we got? Bassmaster Classic Kayak Tournament is next week. The guys are heading that way. Some are already there. We got Jason Cassidy, Mike Elsey in that event. I heard Dave Sewell was in there. I can't confirm that. I didn't see his name on the list. I may have overlooked it. And I mean, I don't know if he's considered an Indiana angler or not, but prior to this year, Alan Reed, he still says Indiana on Turning X. I don't know. I hear the guys just sitting in Florida on the beach watching rocket launches and cooking brats, but I guess he still fishes. He's signed up for the event. So, that's going to be fun to watch and see how those guys do. All Indy Knights players. If Dave Sewell's going, he'll be the one stand out there. But I'm excited to see what those guys do. So wish them good luck. Send them good vibes, safe travels, and all that. And watch the leaderboard on Tourney X. So we'll have that posted up, obviously, as well. How cool would it be to see a guy like Mike Elsey, who's already a national champion, a state champion now, and could possibly be a Bassmaster Classic kayak champion. That would be really cool. A guy like Jason Cassidy getting it, who's fished so hard here in the state of Indiana, is starting to travel and do really well. Obviously, Alan Reed's already got some Trail Series wins and that sort of thing, but having a big event like that would be really cool for him. So that'd be really neat to see one of those guys do well. All right, what else we got before we move on to tonight's guest? I'll save everything else for afterwards. Let's go ahead and bring on the man of the hour, Austin Killion. What's up, dude?
What's going on?
Oh, I gotta take a little water break after all that.
I got to thinking. You said I was on GRBY Talk last night. People probably think I live in my truck.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I thought you just drove around and fished and slept in there, man. You got a family or anything, or what?
Yeah, they're inside. You wouldn't be able to hear me if I was in there.
Okay. I get it. I gotta put mine in their rooms and put them to bed or make them sit downstairs and watch a movie and threaten them with their lives if they come upstairs. Yeah. Otherwise, they'd be knocking on the door and asking to watch Blippi or Bum Bum or Cars 3 or something like that.
Man, so. I got my girls into SpongeBob, so it's not too bad for me right now.
Oh, okay. All right. I was never a fan of SpongeBob as a kid, so my kids don't watch SpongeBob because
it's better than it was. It's better than the show that they did watch. So
yeah. Well, anyway, I'm trying to get them to watch fishing with me. Every once in a while I can. Like I'll turn, B&P fishing or Willer on or something on YouTube, and I can get their attention for just a moment if there's some really cool editing and music. But once that's gone, they're out the door.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, man, enough about the kiddos, and let's start talking about fishing tournaments, man. First of all, I mean, I would say you're pretty new to the scene.
Yeah.
Overall. Maybe a lot of people don't know the name yet. I think they're probably getting to know the name, especially if they follow GRBY. But tell us a little about Austin. How did you get into the sport of kayak bass fishing? How did you get into fishing?
My stepdad introduced me to catfishing when I was real younger, and I'd say in the last 10 years or so, maybe 8-10 years, we started going to the river that dumps into Brookville. So it's got smallmouth, largemouth, and ever since we started going there, I was addicted. I used to wake up like 2 hours before work and would go for an hour and a half
Mm-hmm.
before work, and then hit it after work. And then we ended up getting kayaks, just little cheap Pelican kayaks, and would always float down the river. And then actually, it was my buddy Dakota Stansberry who asked me one day if I wanted to do tournaments with him. I was like, yeah. He's like, get a kayak. I was like, I got one. And I saw his, and it was way better than my Pelican. So I ended up getting that Slayer Max. And then I think our first tournament we did was Monroe, the second Monroe tournament last year.
Okay.
I didn't catch a fish that day.
Oh man, you must have been in the wrong area.
Yeah, I think Dakota caught one that day. But yeah, last year it was rough for me. I mean, I did quite a few tournaments spread out through the clubs. I think I did like 21 tournaments and had 40 fish submitted. So that's, if you do the math, that's not very good. But
Well, man, you've really turned it around this year.
yeah, I kind of got into it a little more. Kind of why I've been doing more series and stuff. Just I enjoy it, man. I'm having a blast.
How many tournaments have you done this year?
I want to say, I think brush might be 15 this
Yeah.
weekend, I think.
So we're about halfway through the series, the season, but there's still a lot of tournaments to take place. So, I mean, it sounds like you're on track to maybe double what you did last year. Definitely upping it.
Yeah, it might slow down. It might slow down as the year goes on. I don't know yet.
Gotcha. So, what do you think the big difference has been? I mean, from fishing 20 tournaments last year and only submitting 40 fish to this year, you've been a guy who consistently, I mean, numerous top threes, top fives. You've been in the conversation several times. I mean, I think a couple times you're a runner up to me at Monroe or other events, and so I've seen your name up there a lot. What do you think the difference maker was? What changed? Did you just get comfortable, or did you change the way you fished, or what?
Well, I mean, last year was the first year I had ever bass fished on a lake.
Yeah,
Up
which is
until last year, up until Monroe, or maybe I think before the Monroe tournament, Dakota and I probably went out to Brookville or Whitewater a few times, but I mean, didn't do super well. It was completely new to me last year, lake fishing.
mm-hmm.
So I think toward the end of last year, I think the last regular season tournament at Raccoon was I think the first time where I figured out where they were. I didn't end up catching a limit, but I had a plan. I went there. It worked. I caught I think 2 or 3 fish there, and that was like the first time I'd ever executed on anything that I planned on doing. So, and
Gotcha.
then this year I just been sticking with what works. I mean, I think last year I in learning, being new to it, I tried so many different things and different tactics, and now I'm just I mean, I still have a bunch of tackle, but I hardly use, 90% of it. It's the same stuff I'm using. It's been working, and I just stick with it.
Well, let's talk about what's working, because when you say what's working, I want to frame that up a little bit. Um, Sorry, guys, I'm moving all over the place. My back is killing me tonight. But you have fished events on bigger bodies of water, smaller bodies of water, moving water, smallmouth only or predominantly, lakes or largemouth only. And you've done well, like I've said numerous times now. So what's working? I mean, if you're sticking to something and it's working across all of those various bodies of waters and fish that you're targeting, what's that look like?
Well, I'd say on the lakes, I mean, it's a lot of people's favorite right now, but I'd say my go-to is a wacky rig, and they may not be in the same spots all the time, but I've been able to figure out where they are, even if it's in the last 2 hours of a tournament. Sometimes
Mhm.
that helps. Like on the White River, just this past weekend, I was finding fish all day, but nothing of like super size. I think I caught like one 16 or something like that, or two 16s in the morning, and then just was a bunch of smaller ones after that. But just kept trying different areas, and once I caught the biggest one I caught, I just repeated that on the next. I found the biggest one in like a grass patch, and then so I hit that the rest of that grass patch. Didn't hit anything else until I got to the next one, and then pulled out an 18 and a half. Didn't hit anything, didn't fish anything until I got to the next grass. Pulled out another good one.
So you're only catching one fish per grass patch?
Um, they weren't really big. They were probably in the section I was at. There was probably one that was 10 yards, one that was 5 yards, one that was 30 yards. So
Gotcha. Okay. And were these like in the center
no,
on
they were along
clumps
the
or
banks. They were
on
along
the?
the banks. They would come out into the water, maybe 2 or 3 feet, sometimes more. And I
Is
would
this
just,
because the water was coming up, or is this just natural? This is just typically an area where
I
you
would
were
think
finding
so.
grass.
It was raining throughout that night and throughout that whole day. So maybe it was that rising water kind of pushed them up into that.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. So let's go back to the Cinco thing for a second, because outside of the White River, you're saying lake fishing, that's been a big part of your success, and we've heard the same thing from everyone through the recent series I did with the Young Guns. All four of those anglers mentioned Cincos. Aiden Darlington leaning a little bit more towards the Ned rig. He doesn't fish the Cinco, but a lot. But the other three primarily fish the Cinco. You fish it the same way that they were talking about. So Nick said he doesn't ever fish at Wacky. The other guys, they say they fish at Wacky some. Do you fish it weighted Wacky or weightless?
Yeah, I fish a weightless wacky.
Weightless Wacky. And are you using the standard Cinco everyone else is using, or is there a particular one that you're fond of?
Man, I actually see. I use the. A lot of people use wacky rings. I use what's. I've you've probably seen it. It's a wacky saddle,
Uh huh.
and and I have until I bought Biz Baits. I was using the Yamamoto, which they
Yeah,
work. I mean, they work, but
it worked.
the Biz Baits, they're a little thicker, so they fit in that saddle a little better for me. I've had a lot of times where my worm will get pulled out of that saddle, but I have not had that problem with Biz. They just fit better in that ring. They're tighter, so
Yeah, the
that's
sassy
what I
sticks are
use.
a little bit thicker. Have a little bit of different shimmy because of that too. So absolutely. So are you a shallow water guy? Like you don't fit like 10 foot is deep to you, or 5 foot
Yeah,
is deep to
yeah,
you, or
yeah. I was just telling some guys the other day that I'll have to figure this whole thing out again come summertime, because I mean you can still catch fish up shallow, but you know in the summertime a lot of tournaments are won offshore, so that'll
gotcha.
be a whole nother animal for me to tackle there. But yeah, I predominantly fish up shallow.
And why do you think you've been so like? Is there one or two things that you could put your finger on that have helped you be so consistent this year? I mean, are you just getting lucky? Are you doing your home? Like, what has led you to be?
I mean, I do a ton of research. I listen to podcasts all the time. When I go to sleep, I watch educational bass fishing videos.
Got
I mean, I love the sport, so I only want to get better at it.
awesome.
Um, I'd say, man, it's hard to. I mean, some of it could be luck. You run into. like on the White River, it may be just whoever runs into a couple big bass. Everybody's catching bass, everybody's finding where they are.
Sure.
That could be luck. I think a big thing that could be is with how many tournaments I've done. Like if I were to go in Monroe and I didn't do the tournament before, or like for Brookville, for example, I fished it a few times before. I spent a lot of time on the lake, so it's basically like pre-fishing, I guess you could say. I maybe you can compare it to wrestling. Like I did wrestling in high school, so you only get better like with mat time, being time on the
Yeah.
mat. Maybe it's the same thing with fishing. The more time on the lake, the more you learn, the more you get comfortable and figure things out easier.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I know when I spend more time on the water, though I get a little more tired, obviously, and I'm wore out from it. But when I'm consistently on the water and in those stretches where I'm fishing more days out of the week than I'm not, I think you just make decisions quicker
Yeah,
because you're able to recall all of those situations. You're just in that mindset. At least that's the way it is for me, and I think it is that way for a lot of guys. When you've gone a couple weeks and you haven't been on the water, and there's a little more guesswork to it. You're a little out of fishing shape, if you will, both mentally and physically. I think that's one thing. What I've noticed about you is every week you're fishing,
right.
sometimes multiple events. And so I think when that happens, these guys are just able to be quicker and adapt faster. And that's kind of like what you were talking about with the White River, going down, catching some little fish, and then you happen across something and you made some decisions, to just focus on that. And that makes sense. Um, what's What's one thing though, as a young angler in the sport, obviously this is your second season, you're really your only full season of bass fishing, especially tournaments. What are some things you want to work on and get better at?
Man, everybody says you can fish a jig year round. I have had the most trouble catching fish on a jig to where the times I would go out and use it and not catch any fish. Now I've got to the point where I don't even tie it on. And I know that could be some of the most fun fishing for people. And it's one that you can do all year round. I'd like to learn more about it. That's probably the main thing, I guess. I mean, you can fish a jig offshore, up shallow, different ways, so
What are some of
gotta be a good.
what are some of the issues that you run into it with? And it's funny that you say that. Generally, and this is true, I think, with several techniques. Like you either love it or you hate it. It's kind of like the Ned rig, right? Like you have this whole group of people that's like, the Ned rig is the holy grail, and then you have people who are like, I ain't touching it, no way.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what is it specifically about the jig that has turned you off to it, or that is it just that you're not getting bit, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like I think that most of it comes from, in the early pre-spawn, I tried quite a bit to, throw a football jig out in deeper water, maybe sitting up on main lake points, and I just couldn't figure it out. I thought I'd mark a good spot, sit there for a while, couldn't get bit there. I've only had a couple days out at Whitewater. It was Dakota and I got on a good jig bite up shallow. But other than that, I've not really done well with the jig at all.
I personally jig was kind of my confidence bait for a long time. I used to make them, and I've caught a lot of fish on them. And it seems like it's weird. It seems like the jig, and this is on every body of water that I've ever fished with any regularity, it seems like it has these times, and not based off of the season, right? But just like certain years, it's like it's all about the jig. And then other years, it just doesn't seem to really play. I've been fishing a swim jig a lot more lately. I got a couple different ones that I like. I also use a tungsten casting jig from Wicked Weights that I can cast, flip, pitch, swim. I really like it. It's called the Combat Jig. But man, I think the jig's one of those things, and the jackhammer has taken the place of it in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I mean, the jackhammer is that 3-in-1, right? It's a
Right.
crankbait, it's like a square bill or a medium diving crankbait. It's a spinner bait and it's a jig, all in one. And so I think as I've picked up the jackhammer more, or chatterbait, or lipless, or vibrating jig, whatever brand you use, Thunder, Cricket, it doesn't matter. As I've picked that up more, I've put the jig down more. But man, the jig is one of those things where when it's on, and when it's off. But you can, if you throw it enough, you can usually find a big bite on it.
Man, there's been times where, for example, at Brookville this past tournament, I'm throwing a wacky up shallow, usually near wood. I
Mhm.
sit there and think, if I threw a jig, I could probably get bit as well, and maybe even draw a bigger bite. But it's so hard for me when something's working to just put it down, because for a while there toward the end of the tournament, I was getting bit, every 5 minutes on this bank. So it's so hard for me to not do that. Plus, I mean, it's my opinion. I like a wacky bite. It's just fun to me. Some people don't think it's fun. I don't really sit there and wait like a lot of people say they don't like to do. I mean,
Mhm.
like, if you're flipping a jig, how long do you let it sit in the water? 5 seconds maybe, if they don't bite it. Yeah, when you're
Well,
pitching
I
up
think
shallow.
that's going to be dependent on the structure that you're fishing and the time of year and that sort of thing, right? So if I got a shad spawn going on, I'm going to be throwing a white swim jig and I'm going to be working it quick. If it's cold, muddy water, I'm gonna soak a black and blue jig and I'm just gonna try and move it in place as much as I can. And then move it an inch or two, move it in place as much as I can. So that's going to vary a lot more than probably what on a wacky rig does. But I think I know what you're getting at, because there are a lot of people, they're going to throw that thing out there and they're just going to drag it real slow back, maybe stop it, drag, reel in. You know what I mean? And then there are guys, and I think this is what you're getting ready to get at, that I'm just going to pitch it in. And if it doesn't get bit, I'm taking it out and I'm pitching it in. If it doesn't get bit, I'm going to take it out and pitch it in. So that's more like target
Right.
oriented casting. You're presenting that to a specific target. And if there's not a fish there, high percentage area, right? There's not a fish there. You're pulling out and going at it. Whereas I think where we're talking to like Nick and Brandon McDougal and stuff like that, they're more of that kind of drag it down until I get bit. So it sounds like you're more lean towards the presenting it to those high percentage spots.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there, let it sink for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, give it a pop, let it sink a little bit more, and maybe a couple more seconds. So 7 to 10 seconds, and it's back in and thrown somewhere else.
Interesting.
Because I'll finesse fish, but I'm really impatient when I do it. But
Yeah. Well, man, the wacky rig thing has always been difficult for me to fish, because I do need to move a little bit faster, and I also like being in contact with something, either feeling my bait in the water moving, or bottom contact or structure or something like that. With the wacky rig, it's just this thing that's just floating out there, and I'm just waiting, and
right.
that I just don't have the patience for it. So one thing like I started picking up was I would throw I throw a Nico rig,
Yeah.
Cinco, sassy stick, whatever you're throwing, right? I throw a Nico rig, Cinco style bait, because then I could feel it on the bottom and had that weight. But when I'm fishing it like target fishing, right, I just throw a weightless Texas rig.
Mm-hmm.
I don't throw it wacky very often. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is at all. But I mean, it obviously works. I mean, guys are having a ton of success with it.
Yeah, there's been times where I get hung up a lot, and And so many times I'm thinking, okay, if I'm just throwing this worm in there, it's just slowly sinking and they're biting it. It's not going to matter if it's wacky or Texas rigged because it's just a straight stick falling down. So I should just switch, but something in me when it's still working, it's so hard for me to try anything else.
Well, I mean, it is a different action. It does fall differently. The rate of fall even changes depending on the hook you're using, that sort of thing. So, I definitely think it has its place, right, to throw the wacky rig. And it comes down to confidence. It always does.
Yeah.
What do you have like standard color that you throw? Are you like a green pumpkin guy? No, or you throw black and blue a lot, or
Man, my favorite color to throw is pumpkin seed. That's probably my favorite color, as long as the water's not super muddy, obviously. But and like Summit, that's my favorite color. Green
yeah.
pumpkins are always my favorite colors too, but I think my all time is pumpkin seed. It's kind of a color that's fallen off a little bit, actually.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think what you're talking about is it gets dark there in the vehicle, and
Yeah, I know. I keep seeing it get darker and darker.
but I think what you're talking about makes a lot of sense. Here in Indiana and everywhere, this is kind of a byproduct of COVID. I mean, the waters are just so pressured, and they're seeing a jig and they're seeing a jackhammer, a spinnerbait, a square bill, and so fishing something different and fishing finesse can be the ticket. A lot of times it is the ticket. So you're fishing finesse with a Cinco style bait, and then now on top of that, you're throwing a color like you said that doesn't get thrown a whole lot anymore. People don't talk about pumpkin seed. Everyone talks about different variations of green pumpkin. So yeah, I think that's cool. Justin said in the comments, hey, I just watched a great seminar on Bass U yesterday about Gerald Swindle and the swim jig. I just watched a great seminar about being different and pressured water. And this goes right along with that. So pretty cool, guys. Not sponsored by, have no affiliation to Bass University, but you'll hear me talk about it a lot. It's a great tool. Speaking of that, you mentioned earlier, you're a bass head. You like to study. Dakota's in the comments saying that you're a map rat.
That I'm a what?
A map rat.
Oh,
So you
okay.
study in the maps a lot.
Yeah.
So and you talk about going to bed watching it, and I'm the same way, man. I mean, just before I got on and talked to you, I was making some posts, but right before that, I was looking at a map of a lake, and who are some of the big influences on you early in your career or early in your in the sport here as you're getting into it? Who have been some of the biggest influences on you, and that can be in the kayak space or not, that you like to watch and learn from?
Yeah. So I didn't really take it serious until last year. So I didn't really spend a whole lot of time, watching specific people fish. And I would always, in the past, get on YouTube and watch old Bassmaster, tournaments or MLF tournaments. But I never really followed anybody in particular. But once I started getting into the kayak fishing, I watched a lot of Greg Blanchard and
Yeah.
watched pretty much everything that KBF had put out at that point on YouTube, and then like for educational wise, I watch a lot of Fish the Moment. I mean, I've sat at work and listened to his 3 hour live videos, while I'm tiling a shower or something. So
Yeah, man. I love him. There is something about that guy. He could explain how to build a rocket ship to a kindergartner.
yeah,
Just has that natural ability to teach and get on everyone's level without making you feel dumb,
yeah,
you know. And that's one thing that I really love about what he does. And I always forget his name, and I feel bad about it. But Fish the Moment, that's his
yeah.
channel. Whether you're beginner or advanced, you can probably learn something from him because he covers the gamut of everything. Uh,
He's super good at offshore, but I have yet to dabble into those videos and try to actually learn, but that's coming.
Well, man, I highly suggest that you do. His map study videos are great. He gets into some of the offshore stuff. He does some great stuff with electronics, and he talks a lot about offshore fishing, like you said. It's really good stuff. I've picked up a lot of little tips and tricks from him. He's reminded me of things that I've seen when I was in the boat with other people. So that's a great person to look at and to watch. And we've mentioned him numerous times on this podcast, but yeah, Fish the Moment is a great one. Bass University, like I said. Is there any other like podcasts or anything that you're into?
I listen to Paddle and Fin and Smalley Talk and those are pretty much the only podcasts. I spend a lot of my time on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Love Paddle and Fin. Obviously, that's where I got started with my podcasting. I still am a listener there, though I don't record with them much anymore, other than as a guest from time to time. But that's another really great resource as well. So great mention there. What's so, what are some of your goals? What's next for you? And you fight, I know you've been fighting for the win, right?
yeah.
That's been your thing this season. And we've all been rooting for you. You got 2 in 1 week. Congratulations again on that. So what's next?
Man, I'm just gonna try to continue to have fun with it. I didn't really even envision a win, early in the season. And then, tournaments, I get closer and closer, and then it started becoming, okay, now I want one, and finally got a win, and just having fun with it. And I think that's just the main goal for me, is just to keep having fun.
Awesome. What are you fishing this week?
I'm gonna try to have fun at brush.
There you go.
That's a tough one for me. Other people are catching limits there. I caught 1 fish there this year, and it was a good one, but I'd like to catch more.
Yeah, I said I'd never go back there.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
I've ragged on it and I've given it hell. I actually was going to sign up for it this week, but it just didn't work out. I really wanted to make it to the Moving Water Outfitters deal. Spend some time with the family this weekend, and I couldn't do Monday and work and all that. So anyway, not going to make it this time. I might try and get out there one more time. We'll see. Maybe just fun fishing, because that lake has got my number big time. I've never caught a fish there, not one. So I'm there right there. I don't think
that's the lake that just sits in the back of my mind, because I know what's in there.
Yeah,
I've caught my personal best out of there.
Right. Yes.
And then it's been really stingy to me the last 2 times, and it just makes you more hungrier for it. So I'll probably be there every time.
Yeah, that's kind of some of the reason for me going to Raccoon tomorrow. So
although every time I leave it, I think to myself, I might not go back there, but I go back every time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think the combination of you spending the time studying it and learning the sport and just being that bass head, and just sticking to it and grinding it out on the water, you're definitely one of those guys. Obviously, the sassy stick has been key player for you. It sounds like
it's won most tournaments, or not one. It's done me well in most tournaments,
right? So I think those are the 3 things that answer the question: how is Austin so consistent on the water? And I think anybody watching here can put all 3 of those things easily to use, and hopefully have, whether you're tournament fishing or just fun fishing, have more fun on the water and catch more fish, and catch them in all kinds of conditions. If you do those things, study, grind it out when you need to grind it out, and try that wacky rig. So
I will say that in dirtier water, like when I fished the 2nd Monroe tournament, I think it was, I think I got 3rd that tournament. I didn't even pick up a wacky that tournament. In dirtier water, which I was in the the more eastern part of the lake on the slow side. I tend to throw that chatterbait, that jackhammer, and that's what I caught all my fish on that tournament.
Yeah, jackhammer is a great option out there at Monroe, and it is at a lot of places. I always have it tied on. I have a dedicated rod for that.
I got one coming.
Yeah, it's always tied on.
Man, I was going to ask you about that. Isn't there a contingency thing with angler?
Absolutely. So King Angler, if you purchase a rod from Kyle, and you have the King Angler logo, whether that be a decal or a hat, or I think you're even able, you have to check the rules on King Angler, but I think you're able to even have that rod but there with the King Angler logo on it in the picture or something along that. But if you have the King Angler logo in your photo, your tournament submitted photo, you're entered for that contingency price. So absolutely, you'll be in it to win it now.
Yeah. Before I came on, I got to thinking. I remember seeing that like earlier in the season, and I couldn't remember if it was that if you just have purchased a rod and you win a tournament or something, you get money. Yeah. And I was just thinking, man, I bought a rod days before I won 2 tournaments, so technically I own one. It's just in his possession still.
Yeah. You got to have the decal and the logo in there.
Gotcha.
So, or the logo in some shape or form. But anyway, you'll have more opportunities, and I'm sure you'll get in there on that. And I know what rod you're getting, and it's an awesome rod. It's so multi-purpose, is what I love about it. That rod still surprises me to this day every time I use it. And Adam's saying the tourney has to be 30 anglers to be eligible. There is some rules and stuff that you need to familiarize yourself with, but absolutely. So
he got a hold of me today and said that he should be finishing up tonight, and I could get it tomorrow. So
nice, dude. I got a couple rods sitting over here. I'm going to deliver one this weekend to a customer, and I got another one that was a prize for a SIAC event that I got to get to Mr. Gittner. So good stuff, man. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to, show some love to before we close this thing down?
I'll give a shout out to all my fellow TDs at GRBY. We have a good time, and man, they're probably the main reason why I've gotten so into the sport. I had asked Jim after the championship last year. I said, hey, I know you probably got next year figured out, but, in 2022, if you are thinking about running a series, near this side of the state, I'll run a Brookville series for you. He's like, what about this year? I was like, awesome. So, brought me in, and we're just having a blast with it.
Well, man, I mean, absolutely. The tournament director's working super hard over there at GRBY. Obviously, anytime you go and you're putting on this many events in a season, it's going to require quite a bit of work. A lot of GRBY anglers are newer to the sport, and there's a lot of OGs and some sticks that fish too, but there's a lot of newer, and that's even more work. So you're answering a lot of questions and helping people through different things and talking them through why fish are getting DQ'd and that sort of thing. So the tournament directors, and then you guys are all sharing the judging. Hats off to you guys. Same thing for SIAC and IK. Everyone's doing a great job this season. And it's impressive, and GRBY's definitely done a lot to grow this community, and it's reasons why guys like you are coming on the show. So, shout out to you as a tournament director.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, I think that's it, man. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future. We're going to be doing an AOY race show probably towards the end of this month, beginning of next month, as the AOY races really start to heat up. So maybe we'll see you on that event. if you're in the running anywhere there.
When are you doing that?
Probably later this month towards the end, or beginning of next month as we get another IK and SIAC event in the books, and GRBY's series kind of all get 3 or more, and we really start to get a good idea of what's shaping up. Because what's coming. I mean, we start thinking about AOY races towards the summertime. Then we start thinking about, all right, who's going to qualify for the state championship. We got Mike Elsey right now. He's qualified because he won last year, but that's it. We got to get some guys in the state championship. I know Brian Moore is a guy who's making a run there at Raccoon. He's got that one pretty close. I've got
somebody's running away with Monroe.
Okay, it's not over yet. We've only had 3 tournaments.
I have to miss this next one too. So.
Oh dang, man. Yeah, I'm hoping to win them all. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping to win them all. But I mean, I've won 3. It's very possible somebody else wins 3. Last year I won 2 and didn't even come close to AOY. I busted. So that's still there. But I mean, Nick Matthews is one of the first 2 at Niona.
Yeah.
White River, he's done 1 and 2. So there's some guys that are running away, but there's a lot of these series where it's still really, really close. So anyway, it's going to be fun to talk about that here in a few weeks, and hopefully we'll hear your name in that conversation as well. Yeah. All right, man. Well, with that, I'm going to let you get back to the family, and I'm going to talk about a few items here, and then I'm going to hit the pillow and get ready to get up early and drive west. So. All
righty. Well, good luck tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Good luck out there at Brush Creek. You're going to need it.
Yeah, I know. See ya.
All right, buddy. All right. Well, man, originally when we had this episode set to air, Austin had yet to win a tournament. He was finishing consistently in the top, and I always think it's important to talk to those guys. Adam, I'll get to that in a second. I think it's always important to talk to guys who are consistently finishing towards the top. Maybe they're not getting wins and getting the exposure for the wins, but they're staying up there in the top. And that's important because that's a hard thing to do. And, Austin talking about how this is really his first full season, that's even more impressive. He's doing it a lot of times fishing that finesse, that Cinco. And he even caught a fish out there at Brush Creek. I don't know how he did it, but he caught his personal best bass out at Brush Creek. It's amazing to me. I think his one big fish was more than most of the fish submitted all year out there. All right, guys, Adam is the tournament director out there at Brush Creek, and he's a fishing buddy, and he's on the Indy Nights team. And I love to give him crap because the results have been, they've left a lot to be desired this year. But that lake does have some big fish, and you should definitely check that out at some point when it's better in a few years, probably. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of the Indy Nights first game next week. We're heading to West Virginia. Unfortunately, because of the KFL season kicking off the same week as the Bassmaster Classic, part of our team's not going to be making the trip with us, which kind of stinks. But we still got Justin Staley, Brian Sparks, Chip Romanovich, Adam, that guy, and myself heading out to West Virginia. We're going to try and represent the Hoosier State out there fishing some small river called the Elk River, catching some smallies and some largemouth. If you guys know anything about the Elk River, let us know. We'll take any intel we can get. We're going to be facing the West Virginia, I don't know, something anglers, whoever those fools are. I'm sure we're going to whoop on them, and we're looking forward to it. So root us on, cheer us on, and we'll share more about that as we get closer. All those games are all broadcasted on all broadcasted live on KFL Facebook and website and their YouTube. For us in that game, there may be some signal difficulties because we're going to be in the mountains there in West Virginia on a small river, but we're going to do our best to get live as often as we can. Hopefully you guys can see that. So yeah, any nights next week, kicking off the KFL season. Turkey Bowl, November 6th is the tentative date. Still trying to lock down a location. I will tell you, got a couple places in mind and making some calls, trying to get that figured out. But for those of you that want to join us for the Turkey Bowl this year and help us feed some hungry families this holiday season, put some food on the table for some families in need, please get a 3-man team together and get ready to fish somewhere in the state of Indiana, November 6th, probably the southern half this year. We will not be going back to Geist this season. And then the state championship, like I said, AOYs from every series are going to qualify, doing things a little different this season. For next year's state championship, we're going to have 2 bodies of water. You're going to fish one on one day and the other on the second day. We're also going to have a last chance event. So last year, what we did is we did roll downs. If someone qualified on multiple series or couldn't make it, we would roll it down to the next angler. This year, we're getting rid of the roll downs and we're going to do a last chance event. So everyone in the and I'll announce all total details, but we're going to do top anglers in each series will qualify for the last chance event. There will be a buy-in for that one. Of course, state championship is paid for, no buy-in. It's all sponsor supported. But there will be a buy-in, and we will qualify someone or someones through the last chance event. More details on that to come. But get out there and fight hard to qualify for that. Looking forward to crowning our second state champion, possibly. Mike Elsey could repeat. We'll see. I know he's going to try. So looking forward to that event coming very soon. Coming up on the show, I don't have anything lined up just yet for next week. We are going to do an AOY series very soon. We're going to do a post-spawn fishing series very soon. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the AOY race later this month, early next month probably. So I'll let you guys know about next week. Remember, we're moving to Wednesday nights at 8:30 starting next week from then on out until this season wraps up later this year. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Make sure to give us a like, a follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you soon.